Next, I'd like to walk through how to enter a project or a proposal into the project tracker. You'll need to be logged in to enter a project. You can see that I'm logged in by the fact that my name is up here in the menu bar. You'll also need to have correct permissions to enter a project. If you are logged in and you don't see this Add a Project or Update a Project button on the home screen, that means you don't have the correct permissions set. So go ahead and use the Help menu to request support to have your permissions updated so that you can enter a project. So to enter a project, I'm going to go ahead and click the Add a Project button. The first step, you'll need to determine whether you're adding a proposal into the project tracker or whether you're entering an existing project that's already complete or underway. The proposal option is for projects that are still in the idea phase or still things that are not yet selected to be moving forward, but are proposals for projects in the basin. The other option here is to enter an existing project. So the big difference between these two workflows is that if you select Add a Proposal for a future project, the project stage will be automatically set to proposal. If you select Enter an existing project that is already underway or complete, you'll have the option to select what stage your project is at, including planning and design, implementation, post-implementation, or complete. So this is a way you could add back enter projects into the project tracker by using the Enter an existing project that is already underway or complete option. So for the purpose of this training, I'm going to go ahead and select Enter an existing project. The Add a Project workflow will guide you step by step through all of the different sections to make sure that we're capturing all of the required information for a project. The instructions page gives a brief overview of the different sections you'll be asked to complete as part of this workflow, and also lists some icons and what they mean. So throughout the workflow, you'll see that some fields are tagged with this lightning bolt sign. So that means that that field is required and you won't be able to save that page without providing that information. The other icons will help you see where you're at in terms of providing the information. If you see a yellow icon here, that means that there's required information in that section that has not been provided. So you will not be able to submit the project until all that information is provided. If everything is going swimmingly, you will see a green check mark that indicates that that section is complete. And finally, throughout both the workflow here and throughout the project tracker, there are these little question mark icons that are little pop-ups that will provide you help on that specific field. So I'll show some examples of those throughout the workflow here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and begin entering my project. The first page here is the project basics. So on this page, the information that I need to provide are the project type, project name, description, and then the timing of the project. And you can see by the little lightning bolt icon there, most of this information is required. The completion year is not required. And I'm just going to show an example here of the little pop-up information that will appear. So if you're having trouble understanding what is being asked, go ahead and click on that little icon and we'll give you a bit of a definition of what is meant by completion year, for example. Close out of that. In the project type dropdown, there are the different project types that the partnership is interested in tracking. I'm going to go ahead and select restoration of aquatic native fish habitat. And here you will go ahead and enter your project name. I think I'm going to do some creek restoration as our test project here. This is the field where you enter your project description. And like I mentioned when we were talking about the project fact sheet, having a brief description, something that's less than about 500 words, will make the project fact sheets display really well. So
Liz?
Yep.
Just a tip for folks who are entering projects. They could cut and copy the project abstract from either their implementation form or the OWEB proposal. So I think that character count, it's like 250 words, so it should fit in there, but that might be an easy way that implementers can input that information.
Great, thank you, Kristen. I was just going to do just that. So I'm going to pull up an example interest form here. And in this case, the project abstract is a little bit too long, but there is some key information that I think we can pull out of the project abstract. So I'm just going to copy some of this information into the project tracker. One other sentence here that made sense. So just really a basic description of why the project is necessary and what the project is going to do. All right, we have got some characters remaining. The project stage in this case, I'm going to go ahead and select planning and design and make up some numbers here. Let's say we started planning this in 2018. We're going to start implementing sometime later this year and plan to have this complete by 2021. All right, so I'll go ahead and save that basic project information and press that Save and Continue button. Will automatically push you onto the next page. Before I jump into this, I want to scroll down and point out the project draft is now saved in the system. So I can leave, go to lunch, go do a meeting, and come back at any time to complete this draft. You don't have to complete all of these steps all at one go. All right, so this next page captures some specific attributes about a project that are custom to the John Day Basin, including the level of design, any project objectives. So this is another one where you should be able to use the interest form to directly input that information right into the project tracker. And then any limiting factors that your project addresses. So I'm going to select just a few here. Say riparian vegetation, temperature, then the aquatic and upland limiting factors increases water quantity, and then of the upland limiting factors, let's say upland hydraulic function and lack of habitat. So you'll know from your own projects which of those to select. All right, I'm going to hit Save and Continue to move on to the next page. This page is called the Simple Location. In this page, you'll want to enter a single point that defines the general location of where your project is taking place, if there is on-the-ground work happening. If it's maybe something like a capacity building project or stakeholder outreach, you might not have a location that defines the project. So you can select no location and go ahead and enter a note that, for example, this project is providing trainings throughout the basin. But in this case, I do have a location. You have the option to either enter lat-long coordinates or to plot a point directly on the map. In this case, I'm just going to select plot a point on the map. You'll see that the crosshairs are enabled. And I can zoom in. Say this project is happening somewhere up here. I'll go ahead and select the general area of where this project is taking place. Hit save and continue. On this page, you can provide a detailed project location. So shown in gray here is that simple area that we just selected. And you have a few different options for how to enter your project's location. You can use the interactive map tools here to draw an area, or you can upload a GIS file. In this case, I'm going to select upload a GIS file. I do think that's what the partnership would prefer you to do instead of using the drawing tools. So there are two types of files that you can upload, an ArcGIS geodatabase or a KML file. In this case, I've got a KML file that I'm going to go ahead and update or upload onto here. So I put this, I'm going to select that KML file, and once I open it, you'll get a preview of what geometries are being imported, and then an option to select which of the properties on that file should be used to annotate the feature. In this case, I'm going to use name. So if you're happy with how the geometries were brought in, you can go ahead and hit approve upload. All right, so now you see on this map, we've got that simple project location and the new features that are the detailed project location. I'm going to click on one of these. So there's that name field, the Starbout Creek extent. So here you can update that notes and press save if you want to. I'm going to hit save and continue to move on to the next page. So here is where you can add different organizations that are contributing to your project. You will need to specify the lead implementing organization. This is also called the project sponsor. In this case, it's defaulting to my organization, which right now is set as the North Fork John Day Watershed Council. You can also add different partners. So for example, the Eco Trust Forest Management. Go ahead and click add to add that to the list. And let's say we are also partnering with the Blue Mountain Forest Partners. If your project has a fiscal sponsor or more than one fiscal sponsor, you can add that here as well. So in addition to organizations, you can add project contacts. So in this case, it's defaulting to Kristen, who is the primary contact for the North Fork John Day Watershed Council. So I could leave that as Kristen, or I can update it to be myself or anyone else at any organization or at my own organization. I'll go ahead and say that I'm the project manager here. All right, so now we're moved on to the spatial information section. You can see that that green check mark indicates that we've provided all of the required information on the overview section. So there are two different geographic regions that the partnership would like you to provide information about where your project is in. The priority focus area and then the watershed. This first page gives you just an easy way to set both of those areas. So it's going to use my simple location to do a spatial intersection to determine which watershed the project is in and which priority focus area the project is in. I'm going to select both of those and click this set selected layer from simple location. And there you see it just automatically grabbed those two areas. If I go ahead and save that page, if those are incorrect, you see my simple location is right on the border there. It's possible I meant to be in a different watershed. You can move directly to the watersheds page and change the watershed or select another watershed if this project is being implemented in two watersheds. The detailed pages allow you to select other areas. Go ahead and save that. All right, so now you see the spatial information section is complete, so we're ready to move on. I'm going to move on to the accomplishments. So because my project is in planning and design, I have the option to enter expected accomplishments. If my project were in the implementation or post-implementation phase, I'd have the option to also enter reported accomplishments. So the difference there is this is what I intend to accomplish, and reported accomplishments are what we've actually done. So the partnership has pulled together a list of metrics that they'd like partners to report on. There are about 30 of them here. I'm not going to dwell on any single one, but we can show you where in the project tracker to find more information about these metrics. I'm going to add a few expected metrics. So stream miles treated, and grab another one. Number of structures installed. All right, so then once I've added those metrics, there's some information I need to provide. So I've treated some, I'm planning on treating some stream miles. The partnership would like to know how that treatment is occurring from one of these options. So let's say offside channel habitat created and 2 linear stream miles. We've got a lot of stream mile here. You can also add another value in addition to doing offside channel habitat. If you are doing some in-stream restoration on those same 2 miles, you can add as many of those different values as you need to. On the number of structures installed, the partnership has asked you to provide whether or not those structures are anchored, where they're being located, so whether they're in stream or in the floodplain, and then the type of structure here. Let's say we're doing some large woody debris, 3 units of it. If you don't have any metrics to provide or any metrics expected yet, you can go ahead and provide an explanation there. All right, so now we've moved into the financial section. And this section includes entering the project budget and also reported expenditures. So the first question here is whether or not the project budget varies by year. You have 2 options. If your project budget is the same each year, for example, annual maintenance, you'll want to select that option. But in most cases, you'll probably want to use the budget varies by year option. Here's where you'll enter a funding source. So I'm going to pick the 5th OWEB restoration and add that as a funding source. You'll also want to enter secured funding values or if that funding is pending. So let's say we've secured $50,000 there. If you have multiple funding sources, go ahead and add those as well. Let's say I'm going to add some pending funding here. And then you have the option to enter if there is no funding identified yet. Let's say we still need to identify another $10,000 of funding here. So there's a brief visual summary of what's been entered there. That looks all right. Go ahead and press save and continue. The next page is for reported expenditures, which is very similar. You'll select the funding sources and add how much money you've expended per year. Let me go ahead and select no here and say no expenses occurred yet. All right, so now we're in the final section for additional data. There are 2 classifications. So this is where you can identify which focal species your project is going to affect and which implementation and ecological results you're addressing. I'm going to select the bull trout and steelhead, and then the view of the ecological results as well. And it's highly likely your project will have many selections on both of these options. All right, so now you see from the side here, all of the green check marks mean that I've provided all of the information to submit my project. We do encourage you to also provide photos by adding photos one by one here. And then the next page is attachments and any project notes. So if you have documents that you want to attach, for instance, uploading the FIP interest form as a document, any monitoring data sets can be added as attachments. The partnership has asked if you have it to provide the FIP interest form budget. So that has the budget broken down by different categories such as staff and other categories like that. And then if you have any maps prepared of your project or any other visuals, you can go ahead and add each of those as an attachment, where you'll select the type of attachment, upload the file, enter a display name. So for instance, the FIP budget form, and a description of that document if you have a description to enter. You can also add free-form project notes if there's information that you want to provide about the project or to the reviewers. And these notes are public. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and submit my project. So you'll get a little confirmation here that you are ready to submit. So my project is now pending entry into the project tracker. Project notifications are sent out, so the reviewers now have an email in their inbox saying that a project has been submitted. And your project will be pending until a reviewer comes in and approves that project or returns it to you asking for more information.